Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Tapcaf Transmissions, the only Star Wars podcast that is currently live on this channel. I am Corey. Joining me, as always, is Justin EckhartsLadder. How are you doing?
I'm well. I'm good. Got to read some fun Star Wars comics today, so can't complain too much. What about yourself, young Corey?
I've been doing all right.
Mm-hmm.
I, too, got to read some comics.
Mm-hmm.
So we should tell everyone that if you only listen to the podcast, you might be coming this week with Balance Point in hand, ready to talk about Balance Point. We are not doing Balance Point tonight. We are
Mm.
instead going to be talking about Tales of the Jedi, the original Tales of the Jedi releases, so the initial Ula Caldroma and Saga of Nomi Sunrider stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, that was on me. Generally, if the schedule changes, 9 times out of 10, it is on me because Corey reads things in like 15 minutes. Like he'll read star by star in like 10 minutes, like between recording videos.
I just read the
Uh,
Wikipedia summary.
Oh, okay, smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you fit in well with other YouTubers. Um, but so yeah, it's usually me. I had some personal stuff going on. I knew it was going to be a thing last week. I didn't realize I would have as little time as I do. So we'll be back to that next week. So if you want to take 5 minutes, or you could probably crush these comics in about an hour if you really want to read them. So if you want to just pause the podcast, if you prepared something else and go read them, go do that.
Yeah. So we've been kind of doing the Tales of the Jedi stuff on our off weeks. So far, we've done two series that are chronologically before this, but were published afterwards. So a lot of really cool angles to talk about from that. Very
Mm.
very interesting and intriguing stuff. But this week we've also had the release of Light and Magic, the ILM
Oh yeah.
documentary. I haven't actually started watching it because I'm going to watch it this weekend. I have about 16 hours worth of transit to look forward to. I figured that would be a good
How
time to
many
just sit
hours?
about 16 hours total.
Where are you going?
I'm going to Niagara, then back, or St. Catharines and then
Oh, I
back.
didn't know that. Did I know that? You tell me that?
Maybe.
Okay. Hmm.
I might have mentioned it, but
Well,
I'm leaving
I
on
didn't.
Saturday and coming back on Tuesday, so it's not a
Okay.
thing that would have interfered with anything we had planned, so it
So
wasn't.
are you taking the bus?
I'm taking the train, so I've got
The
to
train.
do the train to Union Station.
Mm-hmm.
Then I've got to go from there either on the GO train or a bus to St. Catharines. Depending on how
Oh.
I time it, I might be able to end up on the GO train. If not, then I'm taking a bus from
So what
Burlington.
will you watch it on your phone, laptop? If you're watching it on the train, that is.
It'll probably be on my phone. My battery life on my phone is great. I don't want to clog my backpack with stuff. Like I have
Mm-hmm.
an old tablet, but I don't even know that like many modern apps will run on it, and I don't have a Steam
Yeah.
Deck, which may have some visual or video playback options. I don't know because I don't have one. I know you've
Yeah.
been really enjoying the Steam Deck, but I just been poor over
Yeah.
here.
It's a pretty cool piece of hardware. Yeah, Light and Magic. I've watched 2.5 episodes so far. They're about 50 minutes each. It's very very good. Very one of my favorite kind of. There's been a few ILM documentaries. I think the last big one was like in the 90s. But this one is really good. Obviously, it starts off focusing on Star Wars. The first episode is kind of about George assembling kind of the founders of ILM
Yep.
and how like the certain technology they had to pioneer. Like I knew that Star Wars did a lot in terms of making new techniques for filming and kind of using matte paintings and things in interesting ways, but I didn't realize kind of the all of the things that they made that were completely different, like the camera setup. They talk about how George Lucas talks about how he wanted to make basically 2001: A Space Odyssey, but not be so slow. Because if you've ever
Yeah.
seen that movie, it's very very slow. You've got like stationary cameras watching a ship dock, and it's like minute long, multi-minute long sequence. Where George Lucas was a fan of cruising and cars and speed generally. So they had to essentially invent new cameras and new techniques for those cameras, which we see played out probably most prominently at the Battle of Yavin. So that's what the first episode is about. The second episode is kind of more keyed in on kind of the making of the actual shots for Star Wars, like the original Star Wars. And then the third is kind of about the sequel. And then I believe there's an episode about Jurassic Park, maybe. Pretty cool stuff, though. Highly, highly recommended. Even if you're not normally a film if you're not usually a fan of documentaries, I recommend it. Anyway, there's some cool footage that I've never seen before. And there's George Lucas is, obviously heavily interviewed in it. Spielberg is in it. Obviously, all the old ILM guys, most of which are still around as well, which I thought was pretty cool. Because they're all like 20 when they were doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've
You
been
need to
doing
feel like a failure.
I've been doing a lot of clips on like production stuff, so I know that now that these documentaries are out, everyone's going to be doing that, and I'm just going to lose any traction I was having. So it's very disappointing for me.
Honestly, there aren't that many clips channels running right now. It's like
I guess that's true. It's just
us and
bombastic.
bombastic. It's really just the two of us.
Yeah.
So there's definitely still room for it.
Good. That's all I have going for me if I ever want a Steam Deck.
You could steal one.
Is there anything else that's been going around? I know there's been more leaks on Tales of the Jedi, the new show, but we should probably wait until there's been some more official word on that.
There's the Kodor news.
Oh right, yes,
we should talk about.
Yeah.
Do you want to summarize it since I just kind of went on the spiel?
So basically, there was an article in Bloomberg by Jason Schreier, who is usually very reliable on this kind of stuff, that Aspyr has fired the art and design director for the KOTOR game and put the project on indefinite hiatus, to the point of even like looking for other projects for them to do in the near future. There is a chance that Saber Interactive, who was recently brought on to help with the project, would take it over, that the article mentioned, and that some of the staff are feeling may happen. But basically, that only came out in May that they were brought on board, so any of these developments are relatively recent. So basically, there was a vertical slice that was being worked on, which is basically where the game developers will take one section of the game and put a lot of polish into that, just like that one area as kind of a demo, whether it's going to be shown to the public or something the public can play. Where like the rest of the game may not be very well or may not be very far along, but you get that as finished as possible. And when it got to the point that was being reviewed by the studio heads and I think the investors as well, it was decided that the project was like nowhere near where they wanted it to be, that too many resources gone into the vertical slice and the rest of the project was too far behind. So we're 3 years into development now, and when they first pitched the project, they were hoping for a 2022 release, but now it is looking like things would have taken until 2025. So we don't know what future, if any, it will have, whether it's going to stay with Aspyr, go to someone else, or just die in the water entirely. But yeah, that's kind of where it stands now.
Yeah, it's really not great news, especially because this is like Jason Schreier is already very reliable, especially when it comes to like talking to employees of these game companies. Like one of his last big, he's talked about like what goes on at Rockstar. He did a thing kind of recently on Halo Infinite, and it sounds like the way that he got this leak, which I think is important. When you get these stories, you got to look at kind of where the information is coming from. This is like the most reliable source because it sounds like there was kind of a straight up, employees are being moved off this project, so it's like it's not he was rooting through their garbage and found shredded piece of paper and he put it together and it said
on his frowning face
Kodor.
Of Malik
cancel Kodor. Like this would have been on the other hand too, if you're the executives at Aspyr, you're going to know that this is going to get out because someone is going to tell their husband or wife or their friend or Jason Schreier. The rest is kind
of. I think it's weird that they just let Jason into the meetings.
Yeah, honestly, like you might as well at that point, especially where people move around the game industry so much.
Yeah,
but it's just a shame. Like I don't think I'm at the point now where I almost don't think the game is going to be made because this is kind of something that happened. It happened to a degree with Star Wars 3. My worry is that once you get people off the project, like people move on, people get attached to other things. I think you lose so much. as someone who doesn't know much about game design, but has obviously read, what happened with other Star Wars projects, Ragtag and 1313, I just kind of worry that this is, once you move people off the project, you lose all that momentum. It feels like kind of the first one foot into the grave for me.
Yeah, it's definitely a rough position, and like it's not a unique position, unfortunately, for Star Wars games right now. Where
No,
Hunters is probably the closest game to release, even if it's not quite the same like
Fallen Order.
flagship title.
Yeah.
Well, like Hunters was supposed to be out now, is out now in some places,
Hmm.
but keeps getting delays on the final global release.
Hmm.
Which it like I'm one of the few people that's actually started looking forward to it more, probably.
Hmm.
Which who knows what's going to happen with that game? But then we've also had uh, the very likely chance that Eclipse just doesn't exist and will never exist,
Hmm.
and that there was never really a game behind the pitch. It was kind of just hoping
Nice
for
CG
investors.
trailer. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's starting to look like Jedi Survivor still on track. That's potentially going to be a March or February March release date, kind of like
Hmm.
Lego Star Wars was this year.
Yep.
But we really don't have anything else on any other game. So it is ironic that like all these other companies have been let back into Star Wars
Hmm.
game development. It seems like so far the only projects that have any solid basis
Are
are
the
the
year
ones that
ones.
are
Hmm.
under EA and Respawn. And
And,
Respawn did prove themselves as having like a good handle on things
oh yeah,
with the
totally.
prior Jedi Fallen Order. So
I mean, even Lego Star Wars had major release issues. Like that game was almost in purgatory for a while. Probably not from a development standpoint, but from like a public standpoint. Like they announced that game and then they didn't say anything, and then like they would just delay it. And that happened multiple times. Like I think that game was supposed to come out over a year earlier than it did.
yeah,
Which I didn't have a problem with it because I thought it was worth it. It's just I don't know. For me, and I admit again, I don't know a lot about game development. This is just kind of how I feel. The Aspire choice was always kind of a weird one. For those who don't know, they did the ports and the polishing of the KOTOR 1 and 2. I've only played the first one on mobile. It was a phenomenal experience. I don't know whether they have other studios helping them. I don't know if they were really confident in the team they had. It's just I don't know. It's I don't know if they've ever developed a AAA game before, but to me, if like their work on the past KOTOR ones was what got them the kind of the role of KOTOR remastering studio, that's a bit odd.
yeah. Like I think my understanding is that they're under Embracer Group, which has a bunch of studios that they own, and that a
Mhm.
few of them, like Saber, were also on the project. So it was
Don't they
definitely an
do stuff for
expansion of what they
Halo
were
as
going to do.
well?
Yeah,
Their
Saber
maps, I thought.
did like
Yeah.
Master Chief Collection and
All
that kind
right.
of stuff.
Oh,
And
great. Fuck's sakes.
HCA as well, I think.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so yeah, it seems like it was kind of the first steps in the studio trying to expand itself a bit,
Mm.
and it's
Listen.
hard to think of a specific studio that would have been better suited anyways. Like a lot of
Yeah.
studios just get formed for these kind of projects as
Hmm.
well, so I don't think it's that out of or that unreasonable that a pre-existing studio that primarily did ports would
I think
get
that's fair.
in a project like that. Because like Empire at War was made by Petroglyph as a new studio coming out of like with devs coming out of Westwood when EA had
Hmm.
bought and then shut that down. And we've also got the Bit Reactor game where Bit Reactor as a studio was
Mm.
founded to work on the Star Wars game, or not founded to work on the Star Wars game, but it was founded as part of the work on the Star Wars game and will do other stuff as well. But it's not that weird, I don't think. But
Okay.
it is definitely a risk when you don't have an established studio.
Yeah.
And even then, you can run into issues, and a lot of them are just absolute shit shows as well. So,
Yeah. It's unfortunate, and this is kind of what I tweeted. And me, I always think before I tweet, but I do stand by this. Even a mediocre KOTOR game is going to be a
mhm.
disgustingly successful project, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like KOTOR has two phenomenal games. It's the original KOTOR. Like I'm biased as a Star Wars fan, but it is one of the most, I think, popular and well loved RPGs ever. Not the most popular, but it's it's in that discussion. People love the characters. Darth Revan. there's something about him or her or they that just really really I don't know. People just love it. It's the design, it's the mystery, it's the story. So it's a moneymaker. So I don't imagine that. We also don't know whether it was Sony or Lucasfilm that decided to kind of pull the plug or put a hold on the development. Because we do know from Jason Schreier's article that the game was showed off to Sony and the Star Wars team. So we don't know kind of why or who ultimately kind of said, hey, shit's not really working.
Yeah.
But shit's not really working either way.
Yeah. So hopefully it's not the end of it. But like we also had the news that like plenty of other studios were interested in making KOTOR, which is why, as much as I was looking forward to a KOTOR remake as like one of my top games of everything we've had announced so far,
Mm-hmm.
like it's one of the ones that I'm not the most concerned about because like if this one doesn't work, someday we'll probably still get one. There are enough people interested, whether that ends up using some of the same work. It is like really frustrating that it'd take
Mm.
like if something had to be completely restarted going from then or from now until then. But like it's something where I don't feel like I'm gonna lose out on the end experience. I have no specific expectations for what Aspire's KOTOR remake was gonna look like. So it's not a situation where it's like, oh, we're not gonna get this one thing. We've seen literally just Revan
Yeah.
smoking or something.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm kind of there too, where I was very excited for KOTOR because I love it, but ultimately, it's I'm kind of at the point where I'm looking forward more to completely new stories
Yeah.
and experiences, in terms of gaming at least, um, or return to things like that are underserved. Like obviously, a Star Wars strategy game would be right up there, but I was probably more excited for whatever the kind of other kind of canceled Star Wars games were. I was probably more excited for Jedi Fallen Order 2, or sorry, we know the name now, Jedi Survivor. So it sucks, but it's I feel like the KOTOR remake has got to be one of the things that for years everyone has known that this has got to happen. And
Yeah.
it was like before it was officially announced, we'd get what felt like a credible rumor from Jason Schreier or from someone else every like 3 months.
Yeah.
Um, so just it's almost like it feels like it's never going to happen at this point. But logically, I'm with you. I know eventually we'll get
Yeah.
something.
Like this has been in the works for 3 years. They've been working on this game, so I'm sure it's like it's very frustrating for the developers that have been working on it as well. So
Yeah, I mean,
shout out to them for
yeah,
yeah,
that's what. There's a really good article on Project Ragtag, and like one of the interesting things was like just how crushed the developers were that
yeah,
all of their work, and that they really thought that they were making something special, and just kind of poof gone. And I mean, obviously, it's like it's such a sunk cost, like so much time, so much money, 3 4 years of people's lives. Um, do you think it's easier to? Do you think it takes less time to make a remake of something, or more? Like, do you think that having knowing that Darth Revan is going to be a character, knowing that Bastila is going to be a character, does that ultimately save you time? Do you think?
I think in some cases it can. It really depends on the level of remake you're doing. If it's literally just we're remaking this game exactly as it was with better
Like the Dead
graphics,
Space
like
remake,
redoing
yeah.
the yeah, then that's probably a fair bit easier. Like you still have to work out things with whatever engine you're using. You still have to uh sort out the actual assets, but you're not having to retool a bunch of stuff because oh we've changed this set piece.
To figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think with the extent of remake they seem to have wanted to make with this, it's kind of in the category that can make it take a bit more because
Mhm.
you're using that as a basis, but there's very little of the actual original systems that you're probably building on. Like you have to remake everything from scratch entirely,
Yeah.
and the actual gameplay systems are probably quite different. So it's almost more like making a video game adaptation than a remake
Mhm.
per se. So you've got the story beats, you've got a lot of the like sure you might repurpose some of the dialogue or something, some of the tone, some of the settings, some of the like map overlays, but there's not it's Not like it's significantly easier than making something from
Mhm.
scratch.
Okay, but last question before we move on. I'm curious to your thoughts on this. Do you think that the KOTOR remake was going to go the Final Fantasy VII route and move from an RPG to an action game? Would they, or do you think that they'd try to keep or maybe modernize the RPG systems?
I feel like the combat would probably have changed to almost a more Mass Effect direction if I had to
Yeah.
guess. Where Mass Effect, like, it's still very much RPG, but it's not like the turn-based KOTOR D&D style,
Hmm.
where a lot of it is a lot more real time.
Which I actually
And
like, by the way. I like the
yeah,
D&D style, but
I feel like that was what they were more going to be aiming for. I don't think
I
it was going to be like
I
full Jedi Fallen Order or something.
no, okay, that makes, because that is, I mean, I haven't played the Final Fantasy VII remake, but I believe that they fully went to like complete action game, right? When that was obviously an RPG at launch. I mean, when the game originally came out.
I've only ever played Final Fantasy Tactics, so I have no idea what actually happened with FF7.
One thing that I would be kind of interested in would be, what's the name of that? I always forget the name of this game. What's the squad shooter again?
Republic Commando, your favorite game?
No, the like the tactical squad shooter. It's like
XCOM?
permadeath. What's that?
XCOM?
XCOM. Yeah, I kind of think it'd be cool to see maybe a Star Wars game. Obviously not fully XCOM, but like
That's basically what
where,
we're getting, eh? Like, that's what the
yeah,
Bit
yeah, yeah,
Reactor game
yeah.
is.
I more mean, I don't mean like this that style of gameplay. I kind of mean like how turns work in that game and how
Okay.
like you've got you've got cast distances on weapon. Like I think that's kind of essentially taking the D&D elements that exist,
Yeah.
because like XCOM is basically a D&D game just visualized. Like that's something that I kind of felt like a KOTOR remake could do. Take all the systems that are have always kind of been under the hood and make them prettier. Like maybe, and another thing that's kind of frustrating about KOTOR is that like
You
movement,
miss
like
every
player
attack?
movement,
Oh, no.
well, yeah, but player movement doesn't matter at all in the game.
No. No,
Like
that's
it's
not
auto
true. That's not true. You can run around the tables and throw grenades.
or drop mines.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it'd be cool if, a slightly like a hybrid system with a bit more action, um but where, I don't know, you can maybe, keep kind of some of those underlying D&D, 'cause I personally think that the D&D mechanics are very important to the game. Like I find that one thing that makes the original KOTOR so great is the encounters. And the encounters I think are a lot more memorable when it's not just run. Like an action game is like almost by necessity a bit of a, like the encounters are a bit more throwaway unless you're doing something like a Dark Souls game. Just because the battles are shorter, you kill someone, you move to the next room. Whereas in KOTOR, it's like you're going to be perhaps in this fight for 5 minutes. That's something that I always really loved. Like I can remember individual encounters from the first KOTOR game, like when you're fighting all those guys in the pool in the base on Terrace, or like when you fight when you're in the Sith base on Terrace and you fight that Sith Darksider, the guy like the station commander.
Hmm.
Do you
Or when
remember
you
that
walk
guy?
into a room and your
Yeah,
game pauses because someone stepped on a mine and you're like, oh, fuck, what's happening?
yeah, exactly. I don't know. So I like that element. I think that it did a lot to kind of make the game memorable. So hopefully, I don't want to see them go to full action, but I would not also be totally surprised if they did. If the
Yeah.
game ever comes out,
Yeah.
who fucking knows?
Maybe we'll get two independently released KOTOR remakes because two studios didn't talk to each other and Lucasfilm Games just missed
The
out on the fact that they'd
the
approved two.
Aspire
Who
Squad
knows?
is still working hard.
2025, they send theirs in for approval, but someone else has already made one. Oh well.
God damn.
But we'll
God damn.
definitely talk about that more if there's anything else to talk about. Hopefully there will be. Uh, and we'll probably have a few questions that are game related towards the end of the podcast because usually the comics episodes are not super long. This is only a
Yeah.
5 issue set of
Mhm.
comics broken into two kind of shorter stories that we're going to be talking about today. Normally, we get 6 or 7 issues. So we've got Ulic Keldroma and the Beast Wars of Onderon, I think is what the full title of the
Yeah.
first one is. Yeah,
The
Beast Wars
first
1.
two,
Got
right?
it.
I think
Yep.
it's like Beast Wars Part 1 and 2, and then
Yep.
yeah.
And then the
So
Saga of Nomi Sunrider? Yeah, Saga of Nomi
yeah,
Sunrider.
I was so confused. I was like, I don't fucking like. They're all Tales of the Jedi something. I didn't even know which one we were doing until I started this afternoon, and I messaged you. I was like, I really hope I read the right one. Um, but yeah, first of all, how long is this after the prior two?
This is about 1,000 years. So those were
1,000
like
years,
5,000 BBY. These are 4,000. So these are like
right?
30 to 40 years away from KOTOR.
Mm-hmm. Just to kind of start off, how would you rank this kind of among the three we've read so far? I'll say this one was my favorite by far, I think.
Are you thinking of them as a whole, or are you?
I'm just
How would,
talking kind of the three episodes, like the three kind of series we've
yeah.
read: Golden Age of the Sith, Fall of the Sith. The first one's Golden Age, right? And then this one. These ones have
Hmm.
been my favorite so far.
Okay, so I thought you were talking about like Dark Empire, Crimson Empire, Tales of the Jedi.
No, no,
Then,
no, 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 no. No.
yeah, I think I'd probably be on board with that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, I
What did you like, and what did you not like?
there some of the art in I think at least the first issue of the Nomi Sunrider ones
Yeah,
was a
there
little
was
bit
one
weird,
issue that had
but
awful art.
yeah, so and that got better in the second one. Uh,
Yeah,
like there's a picture of or there's one of the frames where I think it's supposed to be Ander, which is Nomi Sunrider's husband, and he's
rest his soul.
flying the ship,
God rest
but
his soul.
he looks like Pelimato. Like it's him sitting there
I can see
with the
it.
droid, and he just looks like Pelimato from Book of Boba Fett or from The Mandalorian. Well,
Yeah,
and Book of Boba Fett.
I gotta say, I think I like the character of Nomi Sunrider. I felt like I don't necessarily know if it made sense to tie the two kind of arcs together, and I feel like the Nomi Sunrider thing could have used a bit more time. Um, like you want to talk about, people accuse Rey of being the no training Mary Sue. Nomi Sunrider is like the ultimate version of that, where not only is she not having any training, but like her master is kind of being like what the fuck, like come save me, why don't you? Like you're my greatest student. Like I've been here for 5 minutes. Um,
I haven't trained you at all. I have refused to talk to you, but also come kill these guys for me, please.
yeah. But yeah, there's one issue that had really bad art. I sent you a picture, Corey, where Nomi Sunrider, she's got like a receding hairline. Like her hairline is like back here.
Yeah,
And I Googled it. I was like, people are talking about this, right? And of course, there's like 30 threads on like
yeah.
theforce.net about
If it was just the weird, like the hairline being farther back, it wouldn't have stood out as weird to me. But there's like the hairline is farther back, but there's also like these two little patches of hair on either side. That is like
She's got,
you
like, the
did this
modified widow's
intentionally. I don't
peak.
understand. Yeah,
Yeah. She got the widow's peak with the I don't know, advanced upgrade, the little sprouts. Yeah, one of the I think the issue 5 had some kind of rough cover art where it was like clearly the cover artist was looking at that for reference,
yeah,
and it's not great.
yeah. I think the covers have been pretty overall pretty good, but like there's been individual ones that just look super weird for all the Tales of the Jedi stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah,
there's go ahead.
and the art I was gonna say just say the art in the first one was I thought it was really good actually. But yeah.
Well, like the thing with Nomi's story getting more time is that they are going to be the characters for the next few arcs as well. So we are going to get a bit more of that. But yeah, so there's the two main stories that we're talking about today, where the Ula Keldroma Beast Wars. So Ula Keldroma, future Sith Lord, spoiler alert, his brother Kay, and
His master's like, I hope nobody else turns to the dark side. And on
Surprise!
the totally legit comic site I was reading this on, one of the comments was like, "Wow, I hope Ulick stays to the light side."
That's bad news.
Yeah, really
So Ulick, his brother Kay, and their friend, I guess, taught Danita. They're all training under Jedi Master Arca Jeth. He doesn't have a last name yet. He's just Master Arca. But he's like, guess what, guys? I volunteered to protect this super new world joining the Republic. They're at war a lot, though. And also, I'm not going. All of you are. He's aware, apparently, that there's a super strong dark presence on Onderon. But he still sends his his apprentice, who he admits is kind of a dick. I'm
Kind of
paraphrasing
a
there.
hothead, at least.
Yeah, that he's sending him in charge of this mission, not warning him about the dark side being there. And so they get to the planet. These three, our trio of intrepid adventurers, get to the planet. They go and
Medium
talk to the.
side.
They go into the walled city of Isis, where they talk to the queen, because the queen's like, "We've got a problem here, guys. There's these other people that live outside of our walled city, and they're riding a bunch of dinosaurs that came from space because they came from this other moon. That once a year, the planet and the moon are close enough that
Doesn't
the
that
beast
happen
flew in.
in Bane? Doesn't he fly between Duxon and?
Yeah, yeah, you can
Okay, I
do
was trying
that.
to
You do that
think.
in
Yeah.
KOTOR as well. It's
Oh,
or
really?
KOTOR 2 rather.
I don't remember that.
Well,
The
you
80s, I
get
played.
in a shuttle there. It wasn't quite as exciting,
Mhm.
but yeah. So the walled city of Isis has a time honored tradition of when they don't like someone, sending them out to die in the jungle, which has the comics call it an unforeseen side effect. But I think any idiot would fucking know. Eventually, some of these people are gonna survive and make a society that is going to want to kill you.
And it's gonna be
Uh,
totally badass because they're surviving the giant ducks and war
yeah.
beasts.
So either of us could have been there and been like, yeah, yeah, this is bad plan, bad plan. Especially because like the kids of all these people, they didn't do anything. They didn't break your stupid laws.
Also,
They
just
just
kill them.
yeah,
Like
really,
if you're gonna do it, just do it.
yeah,
But like this is the same thing that kind of happened at the in the very first Tales of the Jedi comic we read, where the Jedi, they're meant to be mediators largely. They go to a planet, they pick a side. It kind of worked out in this case. In this one, it obviously doesn't. And to the Jedi, it should have been obvious that they're not necessarily choosing the kind of moral path here
yeah,
because they're fighting against people who have been exiled for whatever reason, and you know they just like obviously like yeah they're fighting against the giant oppressors who are in their literal walled towers. um the thing is, what was the planet in the first oh, is Empress Tita, right? In
yeah,
the first, yeah. So unlike in that situation where the kind of ruler of Empress Tita is more or less benevolent, in this case the Jedi actually do somewhat discover that yeah, maybe jumping to conclusions and assuming that the ones with the towers are good, like we should have probably actually stopped and evaluated the situation and maybe meditated a bit, which I thought was kind of a nice, kind of a good thing to do.
yeah. Like they weren't prepped at this on this at all. Arca Jeth is just like, yeah, you go, you're gonna go and you're gonna be the most powerful people in this situation. This is a responsible thing for us to decide. And they get there, and immediately because they have two humans, Kay and Ulick, and then a Twi'lek, which is taught.
Who's
Uh,
introduced as Twi'lek taught.
yeah, and they're like, no aliens here. Get the wormhead to immigration. And
Yeah,
they
just
eventually accept him because he's a powerful Jedi. But it's like, come on, this is there were warning signs.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like immediately, immediate warning signs.
Wow, the first thing we heard from your queen was a racial epithet. This is a great relationship we're starting.
Yeah. Wow, the full worm head too, not just wormy or something. Really not great.
Well, she does say like, oh, well, they're powerful Jedi, so it's good. Which means like
Mhm.
if you're able to help them, they're willing to have you on board as long as you can benefit them. So if you're one of the rich and powerful in Star Wars, then sure, yeah, just get
Yeah.
by with whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. And then it turns out that so what happens is the Beast Riders. Also, how did you think of the it, I guess the Andron, because we do see Andron in the Clone Wars, and I guess it's a decent, because I remember there's Beast Riders in that as well.
Yeah,
Just thought I'd mention that. But anyway, the Beast Riders do attack the city. The princess is stolen. Turns out that she's fallen in love with one of the Beast Riders, and they
the
are kind
Prince
of
of the
having
Beast Riders.
He's Prince of the Beast Riders. They're having a union, and reveal to the Jedi, who obviously try to rescue her, that the Queen and really all of the people of Onderon have been corrupted by the which Dark Jedi is it again?
Frieden Nad.
Freed and Nad, who I think you see in Kodor, right? So he
Yeah,
just looks like
I
all
think
the
you get
other
his
Dark.
sword. No, you
Yeah.
get
I,
Nagasato's sword, but he has a sword too.
I think you see his ghost as well. But anyway, um, yeah, he's sort of he traveled, he stayed on Onderon, he corrupted people, and ultimately his descendants have kind of been hanging out. And ultimately, the queen is not a chill lady.
No.
So the final battle, the Jedi obviously try to see if a peace can be made and if the queen will reject her dark side ways. Instead, she fully embraces Frida Nad, and the battle for the fate of Onderon begins.
Yeah, like the Jedi's plan seems kind of dumb here, where they're like, "Oh, now that we know you're cool and that Princess Galia just wants to marry your son or you, then like we can just go and tell. We'll vouch for you." It's like you've not prepped on this. You didn't read a single book on the history of Onderon or something. You've not asked anyone, and now they're telling you, "Hey, this is probably a bad idea." Just not
Yeah.
listening. But
Yeah.
I think the real takeaway from the wedding banquet was that the way that she met him, like that she met the Beast Rider Prince, basically, was that despite this giant wall, they've all just been managing to sneak into the city anyways to do
Yeah.
whatever they wanted, pretty
Just
much.
business.
But
Yeah.
enough to
Like
like strike up
like
casual
football game.
conversations and
Yeah.
start dating, I guess. They did
Yeah.
have to stage this whole assault to get the princess out, which they had to know was going to cause some sort of a response. But like maybe that was just part of the ceremony. It was a
Yeah.
ceremonial kidnapping. It was
They are beast
basically
riders.
yeah.
And they've been forged by the wilds.
So
Yeah.
the once they're in the castle, the Beast Rider attack ends up starting because the Jedi say, "Look, if they don't go for this, then we'll help you with your war." The goals of the war are less clear.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was like take over the city or kill her in particular, but they said they'd help, and shit does not go well. So they start off kind of even, but then Queen Aminoa decides to call on the powers of Frida Nad and does some like dark side battle meditation. So luckily Arkajeth was flying in, and I thought his criticisms of Ulik, despite them not handling the situation very well, were unfair. Because he basically
Yeah.
says, "I didn't prep you for this, but also why don't you idiots know how to do battle meditation? It should be easy."
Yeah. The battle meditation thing, totally unfounded. He did have some points where Ulik, like, he was correct. Ulik is headstrong. He was
Yeah,
rushing into situations, and even Ulik's companions warn him of that. Like, maybe you should like collect call our fucking master and see what's the right step here. And he's like, no, we're good. And like meditating probably would have been a good step. But I also, he had to try to rescue the princess. Like, who knows what these fucking savage beast riders are gonna do? Like, maybe they're gonna feed her to their beasts. Like, I do get it. But probably like you taught him, his failing is your failing, and maybe like don't skip the class on like how to do battle meditation.
yeah. Well, he hadn't even held a class on that. Apparently, it's just supposed to be a thing that Ulik should have thought to do based on nothing, despite the fact that it like even with Nomi 2 issues later, it's like, oh, this is actually a pretty powerful ability. It's kind of rare, but
Mm-hmm.
like you don't make the fate of an entire planet into a test for some guy. Fuck you, Jedi.
Is this the first? This would have been the. Oh no, I guess battle meditation is mentioned in the Thrawn trilogy, which came before this.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was mentioned in any source books or anything before that. Probably not, but
Yeah, it is
yeah.
kind of weird that like I doubt Timothy Zahn would have taken it from here, so it had to have been that direction of like the
Well, I
comics taking
think.
it
Well, no,
from.
because this came out. I think battle meditation is mentioned in Heir to the Empire, which came out before
Yeah.
this. Because like, this was '93, and Heir to the Empire came out in '91, I believe.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm looking at. I'm just quickly looking at the Wikipedia page.
Yeah. So
Heir to the
ultimately,
Empire, yeah.
Arca Jeth was like, "Didn't you realize there was a dead Sith Lord in the basement, and that's why this?"
Like, no, I didn't check that door, dog.
Yeah. Well, you should have sensed that something was really bad when you got here. And like, fair enough. Like the Queen was just using dark side Force energy, basically, and she even
Mhm.
mentioned, "Oh, I can feel they're strong with the Force," and that did not prompt a single follow up question from the Jedi. Like, "Oh, are you?"
Like, you want to elaborate on that,
Yeah.
Queen?
That seems like it'd be useful information for them to have, relevant to their interests, if nothing else.
Hmm.
Like, I get
No,
it's your first day on the job. You don't want to be like, oh, we're just gonna question everything the queen says now and interrogate her in her throne room. But like, maybe a little aside to each other, like, let's keep an eye on her.
yeah, yeah, not great, honestly.
Yeah. So I rank their performance here at most a 4 out of 10.
Yeah,
Like, they did some nice stuff with their slashing. Kay lost an arm.
and immediately he's like, "Not a big deal. Better robot over here."
Yeah, I didn't realize that prosthetics could just be taken from droids. Like,
Mhm.
droid arms just plug right into your nervous system. So
Yeah,
Kay
well,
he is
that's
established
why.
as
Yeah,
yeah,
that's why you wouldn't have made it.
yeah, that's
You would have
true.
been felled by an Onderonian beast rider.
Well, I wouldn't have been felled by them. I just wouldn't have an arm, or I'd have an arm. I just wouldn't have the other one anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of fights between both of these that Jedi just like lose for some reason. Like, they lose against
Yeah,
like two soldiers.
yeah.
The Oswillum does the same thing in a fight with a shitty pirate, and then Nomi Sunrider stuff. The Toth just, or not Toth. What's the fuck? What's Nomi's master's name?
Oh, Ton,
Thon. That's okay.
Thon. Yeah, yeah. It's Tom of Tom and Jerry.
Is he in multiverse then?
Tom and Jerry's character in Multiverse is really cool because they don't actually fight. Like when they're fighting, it just looks like they're fighting each other. So like when Tom does his punch, he's trying to hit Jerry, and it's just like if an enemy happens to get in the way, it is what it is.
So they're more. Do they act like one character? Is it like Ice Climbers, or is it like the Pokemon trainer?
No, it's more like Tom is the. I think Tom is the one with the hitbox, and Jerry is
Okay.
kind of more of a visual.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, multiverse is very important. We'll be covering that later tonight.
Mhm.
But yeah, so Arca Jeff goes into the basement, and there's a real Scooby Doo moment. Speaking of multiverses, because Shaggy
Mhm.
and Velma are in there. But the Sith Lord in a box, and then he kind of forces the spirit out of Aminoa. She's dead. I think she's dead now. Is she
Yeah.
dead later?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it was like the dark side was partially kind of it was using her and fueling
Yeah.
her as well. Like at the very beginning when she's introduced, it's like she looked far older than 70, and I gotta look at her. I was like, she looks a little older. Like she might have just spent a lot of time in the sun. I don't know if I'd say far older.
Well, Arca is when Galia is upset about it. Arca says, "Don't worry, I've just forced the dark out of her." So I don't know if
Mhm.
she was dead at that point, but they're talking at the end. They have their little meeting after the Galia and the Beast Rider. They've gotten married, and now the city. Everyone is just on board now.
Yeah.
Though there are still some natists that are out there in hiding. So
It's
we're
like,
gonna.
we kicked out all the necrophiles, right? Like I don't know if I'm cool with this union.
Well, what are they gonna do? What do you want them to do?
Yeah.
So we'll get more of all of our friends from this storyline with the 2-issue Frieden Nad arc, which I'm not sure when we're going to include that with. We might just do that along with the
Is that
Sith
what's
Lords
next
one.
chronologically after this?
Yeah, because it goes from
Okay.
that into Dark Lords of the Sith. But like Frieden Nad Uprising is only 2 issues, and then Dark Lords of the Sith is 7. So I don't know.
One thing
how we're
that I
gonna
was
do that.
thinking is next time we get a guest, what we should do is pre-record a section, just me and you, and include that maybe after the guest. So it's like it's like that's what a lot of podcasts I listen to do. Like if they have a guest on, it'll be like, okay, now we're gonna go off to blah, and then you go to
Answering the
blah.
questions and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you mean to do that for like the Frieden Nad stuff, or just as an aside on how we should
Just
handle
throw the
guests in the
just
future?
throw the free to Nat into something else since it
Okay.
is so short.
Yeah, that'd probably work.
Mhm.
But yeah, anything else you want to say about the Onderon portion before we get to
No,
Nomi
I liked it. It was
Sunrider?
good. It was good. I was thinking the Nomi Sunrider stuff was my favorite, but I think I actually liked the Onderon part better. I like when they crashed outside the walls. It had a very cool kind of like fantasy feel to it, and yeah,
Yeah, a lot of characters that I strongly disagree with in this one, but it was fun. So we get to Nomi Sunrider. Opens up with her Jedi husband is he's got a big box full of crystals that he wants to go uh give to Master Thawne.
Wants to give Thawne the family jewels.
Yep, he wants to fuck the
Really,
rhinoceros.
really shitty reason to get killed. By the way,
Yeah,
like you're going to give a dude some crystals and you get ganked in an airport.
yeah, that is basically what happens. So yeah, him, his wife, and their daughter Vima, not to be confused with future Gremlin Vima Dabota,
I had to
probably the
Google
namesake
it.
of it.
I was like, Vima's old. Is she that old?
No, almost, but no.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, sorry. Yeah, they go off into a space station, and we get a nice little panel, kind of with some world building about how 20,000 years ago hyperdrive started becoming popular, and that does sort of match up the lore that came later. The timeline's not quite correct, but it's close enough. They're off by like 10,000 years maybe. But they've got this kind of cool idea where hyperspace is still based on like they've got navigational buoys,
Mhm.
and in these like buoys, there's these big space stations. And all I was thinking when reading that is that'd be a really cool setting for like a tabletop RPG game
On a
where it's
nav
like
buoy.
yeah, it's like more than a buoy. It's like these giant stations, right? It's like almost like a
Yeah.
interstellar truck stop. And I was thinking that'd be a really cool place for because it's like the biggest hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Write that
I thought
down
that
for a future RPG adventure.
yeah, I thought that'd be cool. You could even like if you wanted to adapt that to the modern Star Wars universe, you could be like this section of the unknown regions or wild space, constantly shifting hyperspace. Here's my plot. Here's my pitch. This one section of the unknown regions has constantly shifting hyperspace lanes. So the actual journey to this one system is only accessible at a certain point, and while you're waiting, everyone goes to this one buoy, this one big space station to dock up and wait for the lane to open, and then that on that
So it's
that
in the unknown
station,
region.
yeah, in the unknown
Okay.
region, in any part of the galaxy, really.
Well, the
Somewhere,
shifting hyperspace lanes.
yeah, sure. You want to just unknown region, and then maybe you've got to park there because gravitational forces will pull your ship. Whatever. You got some reason for a bunch of people of different classes, different races, lots of scummy people, all to be in the same place. You have seedy cantinas. You got all this fun stuff. I just think it's a really interesting idea for a story.
Yeah. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
Could you name the hyperspace buoy Baba?
Baba Booey.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So my car came with Sirius XM.
Okay. You've been watching some Howard Stern.
Well, I have been
or
listening to Howard Stern a little bit, and he's a fucking animal, like the shit he says. He's disgusting. And I left it on one day when I was listening to it. It was like
Just leave your kids babysat by Howard Stern.
no, I was listening to it when I was driving by myself, but then Kelsey put the kids in the car and turns it on, and it's like Howard Stern like debating like something about anal sex or something. I forget what she said, but he's filthy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But getting away from the
I
filthy
got
stuff,
chewed
back
after
to the
that.
story with Captain Stonebone in it.
Yeah,
The Hutts.
exactly.
The Hutts are trying to get those Adega systems, or those Adega crystals, and they kill Ander Sunrider, Nomi's husband, on the space truck stop, and Nomi picks up the lightsaber to kill the guys. And I just love the one frame because one of the pirates is like, "Look at the way she's holding that lightsaber, Gub. I think maybe she's a Jedi."
Like, what do you mean? Like,
I do think the presence of a lightsaber probably does indicate one of them was a Jedi, but one of the Jedi just got killed by a fucking
yeah, it's fucking little snack. So
lizard with a shit name, Scritch.
I gotta say, it's been the same for the other ones we've read. Anytime the Hut storyline starts,
Yeah.
fucking, I'm out, instantly out. I'm like, what's the point? Okay,
Yeah.
fucking move on. Like, okay, the Huts don't like the main characters. They want whatever. Let's go.
Yeah. And
Like,
the Hutt storyline is how we get the giant fucking space grasshopper ship, which I've never been a fan of.
no.
But for things that I am a fan of, Nomi is told by her dying or husband, who became a Force ghost in like 3 seconds, apparently.
Instantly.
Like,
Instantly.
take my crystals and deliver them the rest of the way, please. So she does.
Yep.
And this is where we meet the rhinoceros, Master Thon, who is regularly getting high, which I love that.
I thought Thawne was fun because he's like the reverse Yoda.
Yeah.
Where like they assume Yoda, like Luke sees Yoda and he thinks he's just some innocent little fucking annoying little gremlin, which he is a gremlin and he is, annoying. So like he's halfway correct, but he's also a Jedi Master. And Thawne's like, he thinks it's a pet because he's literally like a fucking Rhydon running around. Like, they're like, oh, they're like your animal just savaged a dude. He's like, that wasn't the animal, that was the Jedi Master.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't know if that's better or worse.
But also, you really fucking suck at fighting. You immediately got taken out by this other shitty pirate.
Yeah. It's like, should I be training here? Like, I just killed 6 people.
Yeah. But Nomi... So, go ahead.
I was going to say, I also find it was funny how they ride around on their Jedi Master's back, but...
Why wouldn't you? Maybe he asked for that. That's kind of creepy and weird, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think one of the Jedi got kicked off the council for doing that.
I'm sorry, you can't wear underwear on my back. It irritates me.
The shudder when people get on his back is what you really got to look on.
You ever wonder why Thawne is fucking on this one planet by himself and no one visits him? It's because he's a weirdo.
Well, at one point it says like, oh, Thawne had gotten rid of the dark energies of Arcania, and I think it's supposed to be Ambria when they say that, because that's the planet he's on.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah, there's a fucking full pond of dark magic like 2 feet away.
Yeah. There really isn't. That's just what they told him.
Full of dark magic alligators.
He got reshuffled in. Like, yeah, this is definitely not because of your behavior. Just watch that pond for a few thousand years.
Like, there's not even a little bit of dark energy. There's like a full pond like 10 feet from his house. He didn't even warn them.
Well, Nomi seemed to know what was going on with that because she was upset that Vima was getting close to it. I think there was a warning.
She was upset, but like not upset to like she was like on her phone or something. Like she was upset, but not upset.
Bad
to,
parenting.
Stop her from walking over.
Well, Thawne convinces them that they need to stay in the first place. Mm-hmm. And then rather than training her or talking to her at all, he just like sits on his stupid rock and Nomi doesn't know what's going on. But Nomi, because she killed the guys who killed her husband, she's ready to swear off lightsabers. She doesn't want to build one. And when
she goes kind of Jason Solo-y, doesn't she?
Yeah. Which we are going to talk about in Balance Point, because we're on the exact right book for it. Mm-hmm. But Thawne, the pirates or the Hutt forces are coming to steal the crystals, and Thawne is like, great, I've been trying to think of a way to trick you into using your lightsaber or to building a lightsaber. Like,
why don't you stop bullying me?
Yeah, this has been a traumatic experience for her, and just have a nice adult conversation. Maybe someday she'll want to use the lightsaber.
Mm-hmm. But, no. Yeah, I mean, he bullies them frequently. I was waiting for there to be like, one thing that I love about Star Wars comics, whenever there's a dark side thing happening, you can tell because the quote will have red around it. Yeah. I was just waiting for Thawne to just go a little too far and for him to like get that red around it. Yeah.
But then he just gets kidnapped like a chump until Nomi agrees to finally kill literally 30 dudes that she just runs up with Thawne's lightsaber.
Yeah. Yeah. And like he doesn't even question it. Like, I don't know, but there could have been another way. Like they end up leaving some of them on their own anyway. So like, I don't know.
Maybe I did think it was weird when Thawne like tramples the guys who were getting that were hurting Oswillum, and he's like, "Oh, you've always taught me that there's a different way to win fights than with a lightsaber." For most Jedi, that means you've negotiated your way out of it. Yeah. With Thawne, it's like fucking like, curb stomps him.
It's like there's a different way, and just smashing a skull. Like, yes, there is.
Remember when Obi-Wan got through the road stop in Mos Eisley by just like beating the shit out of those dudes?
don't save your lightsaber. Only use it when you're sure it won't use the dark side. The belly club, on the other hand, fucking feel free.
I've been meaning to make a clip out of this. I haven't done it yet, but
All right,
there
let me just get my
was
pen and paper.
in the annotated screenplays. It talks about how initially the first person to use Force choke wasn't going to be Vader in the Death Star like council room thing. It was
Mhm.
going to be Obi-Wan using it on like 10 dudes at once. So maybe Thawne was onto something here.
George Lucas had no fucking clue what he was doing.
Well, Obi-Wan started off as like a really fucking weird, like he was basically Yoda before Yoda got turned into
Mhm.
Yoda. He was like
Mhm.
strange hermit that seemed crazy. It was like laughing all the time when someone got hurt. So I think it changed for the better. But
Okay, I'm gonna throw this to you. I don't think I've ever talked about this on the podcast, and it's
okay.
one of my big things. You know that scene? Maybe I have, and if I have, you can interrupt me. That scene in Return of the Jedi where Luke enters Jabba's palace, and the Gamorrean guards come up to him.
Hmm.
As a kid, I never ever saw that as Luke using Force choke on them. I always saw it as him using the mind trick.
Me too.
Just be just because why would Luke use Force choke? Like he's wearing black, and he's at the beginning of the movie he's on the he's going to reach the point where he's got to make that big moral decision, um but he's not fully gone to the dark side yet. And I gotta admit, I was pretty surprised when I talked about that on or when I talked about that on whatever. I think I made a video on it, and everyone's like, it's clearly a force choke. The guard holds his neck, and for me, I always saw it as he's putting his hand up to kind of go back in the position that he was in. And this to me is one of the more interesting debates, because if Luke does use the force choke there, it would be literally the only time that I've ever seen of all the movies of Clone Wars, of Rebels, of whatever else, where someone uses a force choke and there's not that whoosh sound. You know how like
Mm.
whenever someone uses the force choke, even when it's not just a dark side. Well, I mean, force choke is a dark side thing. It's not just a Vader thing. Even when Luke does it in the Clone Wars, there's that sound. Every single other time, um, when Luke does it, he uses the force choke. I also checked every version of the novelization, because there's been like 6 different Return of the Jedi novelizations. The original one, it's ambiguous. It's like Luke raised his hands and the Gamorrean guards back up. But the other novelizations, it does explicitly say that it was a mind trick rather than a force choke. So I forget
Okay.
exactly what the script says,
I'll have to see
but
what the annotated screenplays say when I get there. I'll make a note to check that.
yes,
I don't think
please
I've ever
do.
looked at that. Maybe
Yeah,
I'll even know by the time we play multiverses tonight.
yeah.
But
Can you like if you could check that, I'd really appreciate that.
I will do that.
Oh yeah, here's what it says. Here's what it says in the script. This is what the script says. Now this is just based on the IMSDB. I think it's the official script, but it says Luke raises his hand and points at the puzzled guards, who immediately lower their spears and fall back. The young Jedi lowers his hand and moves on down the hallway. So
Yeah,
I
that's
never saw it as
ambiguous.
choking the guards,
Me neither.
but I don't think that was the intention. But I'm curious what the I'm curious what the script, because like it's about, and I've seen the argument. Well, it's about Luke maybe falling to the dark side in the movie. That's the big thing. But like showing him choking guards at the very beginning, like Luke doesn't get to that point. Like,
Luke also, I don't know if he's ever really seen Force choke before.
yeah, maybe not. That's a good point. But like
Unless he just
like
independently in that moment was like, you know what I can do? Block their airways.
like Luke doesn't get to the point where he's like lost his way and has to make his way back to the light side, except at the very end, arguably. Like the movie is about him, he's at the point where he can either go the Jedi way or his father way, and he obviously chooses the Jedi way. He's got that moment at the end where he almost goes the other way, but he's not at the beginning, like I don't think anyway, like choking people.
Yeah. Well, we'll update you all on exactly what happens when I have the definitive answer, because there's definitely going to be one in the book. But
Really? Is that
no, it's not.
okay?
Because like it's just production information interspersed with like the the end lines and stuff. So, and the end directions. So it does have at least like the official final script stuff and then notes. So maybe there will be something in there. I think there's a decent chance, but I can't make any promises.
Mhm. All
But
I know is for a while I was aggressively editing the Wikipedia page for Force Choke to remove Luke as an active user. I'm not even joking. I
between
did it
that
like
and
a
the
million
breast
times
page, you had to.
because whether you think it or not, in canon especially, because there is a canon Return of the Jedi novelization, it specifically says mind control. So.
Yeah, there you go. You have to like people need to be more careful with what they put on Wikipedia.
Yep.
It's not a fucking game, people.
Mm-hmm.
So I like how at the start of all of Thawne's uh lines he has like a sound effect. And I just it just reminds me of the I think it's Thundercat stuff, but I've only ever seen the Robot Chicken Thundercat stuff where like snarf. I don't think
Yeah.
that's I don't know, is that Thundercats or is that something
I,
else? But
I don't know. I've seen the Robot Chicken thing too. I do just say Schnarf sometimes, but yeah, I don't know what it's actually from.
but I guess that ends the the saga of Nomi Sunrider, who
Yeah,
is
that'll be it.
agreed to train. She's got Thawne's lightsaber. How he'd ever use that lightsaber, it'd look very weird. I'm sad we didn't get to see it.
It
But
looked like
we'll
she's been fucking cutting her hair with that lightsaber the whole time.
maybe.
Fucked up hair.
He's given up on making her make her own. He just fucking hands her the one then.
It's funny too because one of the like issues 4 and 5 try to make Nomi Sunrider to be this very like beautiful woman. Like she's always like looking off to the side with her hair flowing, wearing like a crop top, and then you read issue 3 and it's just like she looks like fucking Vegeta.
How can we
Shit's
continue
really
your Jedi training if you can only talk about Kakarot? What's a Kakarot?
You've got the widow's peak, you tell me.
But yeah, so we'll get to the Freed and Nad stuff at some point in our next comic episode or comic related segment. Uh, Maybe we'll try to get to a couple questions, maybe a
Sure.
few of the ones from last time. Some of the game ones that we didn't have a chance to get to because that was like our longest episode in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But first, uh, first we have a question from Joel, who asks, "Do you think Lucasfilm will ever be able to have another hard reset of its continuity like it did when Disney bought it and they decanonized Legends? If so, how could that be pulled off, or do you think it would be possible at all? I don't expect them to do this anytime soon, but franchises always redo it eventually, even if it's 50 years later."
Sure, they could.
Yeah. I don't think it'd be technically difficult. I think the most likely point where that kind of thing might happen would be if they did try to remake the original trilogy at some point. That would be my most likely moment for it, but I don't think that's likely to happen.
Yeah, I mean, all they got to do is do the same thing they did last time: movies, TV shows, everything else.
Yeah.
You know, like the amount of people who read the Star Wars books, it's not that high. um, like if you could decanonize everything but the movies, and I guess the Mandalorian, and the vast majority of people wouldn't know. They'll get the Clone Wars in there, you know, you're catching more people, but most people don't give a shit what fucking Bimbo the Great did in Star Wars Aftermath.
How dare you?
It's, yeah.
Bimbo is the best of us. I feel
I'm
like
referring to Singer. No, I'm just joking.
I feel like when that originally happened, when the whole like Legends canon split happened, I feel like I was telling my friends that I didn't think it would happen because like the readership or the fans of the expanded universe were a bigger thing than they were, but I was wrong if that's what I said. I can't remember what direction I took in that discussion because I have some friends who like they watch the movies, they'll read or they won't read the books, they'll watch the shows, and one is like he described himself as a big Star Wars fan. He only has read I think 2 Star Wars books that I lent to him in the last year, so it's yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be out of the question that it happens again. I don't think it'd be a particularly difficult thing for them to do if they wanted to, but I don't think
I
that's
think
coming soon.
like of my friends, all of whom would be, go see Star Wars on the first opening weekend. I don't think maybe one would know that a reset was happening, maybe, and I don't think any would really care. And I think that'd be the exact same now. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Garrett, who says, a bit of a meta question. How would you react if you recently learned Star Wars is real and happening right now, and several beloved and not so beloved characters were watching Tapcaf? What would you say to them? They've heard every bad thing you guys have ever said about them. There's no running away now. Time to get into a Twitter war with Darth Bane. Calling Luke an incel, huh? Luke knows. Luke heard. So, great. If we can get into a Twitter war with Darth Bane, that's going to be great for engagement.
Great for views, yeah.
Like this is exactly what we need.
It's funny because I remember the first Star Wars trailers were like, Star Wars, this is all happening. Or like, this happened. It could all be happening right now. It's like the one thing you can't say with the movies based on the opening crawl. They said in the trailer. Yeah, I mean, I'd call Luke an incel, knowing that I'd call him an incel, simp lord, beta cuck male, whatever, all those things, knowing that he's a Jedi and probably can't retaliate in anger.
Yeah, fight us in real life, losers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which Star Wars character would you want to have dinner with the most? There is a correct answer to this.
Lando.
Close.
Okay, Talon card.
Yes, that is the correct answer.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad we're on the same page here.
Honestly, I want to talk to actually I'm not even gonna say that. Let's continue.
Now you have to.
I was gonna say I was gonna talk to Winner and ask what Ackbar is actually packing. Like I'd be like, are they like, is it like a 2 like grasper thing like sharks have, or is it like does he have balls? Like I'm curious. Like I gotta know for personal reasons. I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
Help with my writing.
the Tapcaf tie-in fan fiction. No, it is going to be an officially licensed book. I do
like the idea of the Dexter Jetster. Go to Dexter's place and have him cook you a meal, and after Master and Apprentice or fucking Brotherhood. I mean, that's a attractive one.
Yeah, the cake.
Yeah.
After that mission in Lego Star Wars, some of the food even looked semi-edible.
Yeah, especially if you get the serving droid and the waitress as well.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Adam, who says, "Do either of you think there's a chance we could see a character like Garm Iblis make an appearance, or has his role been merged into Saw's?" I think Saw is just Garm Iblis now, essentially. Like that role exists as Saw Gerrera. I don't think they need to introduce Garm as another character.
Yeah, I don't think they'll introduce Garm. I am interested to see like whether they ever do anything with Cornhorn. I'm interested to see like if they will bring characters that were originally in the kind of Bantam era, if they would consider like, will they bring characters from different time periods into the post episode 9 era? That's kind of what I'm curious about. And I don't know, like I think ultimately they're gonna do, if they do ever do something like that, it would be a Thrawn situation where the character has the same name. Probably Thrawn, he doesn't really well, sort of, but the naming convention is different. But like ultimately they'll draw what they want from the character and abandon what they want, and it will be a different character in many ways and the same character in others. So yeah.
Let's see. I think that does just leave the game related stuff. Maybe we should save those for we do have the potential upcoming guest for a game related episode. So maybe we do the questions ourselves afterwards to edit onto that. Because we're not going to know exactly when that's going to be able to happen until closer to. But yeah, so I think that's going to do it for this week. Anything else you want to touch on, say, any reviews you want to read?
Yeah, I was just pulling them up. We did get a new one. I believe a new one from Ando 1-2. Also, the droid's name was A3PO. because A is before C, I presume. I think it was A3PO, right?
In the comic? I think it was
Yeah,
3DO.
and then no, 3DO. Okay.
Come on.
Yeah, that's different. My bad.
Yeah.
We did get a new one. I believe it's from Ando12. He says, Tapcaf is the only Star Wars podcast that makes you feel like you're just hanging out with friends talking about Star Wars. Recently went back and listened to every episode. I'm really excited for more of the Long War. Thanks for such an enjoyable time. I don't know if that one was one I read before, but it's such a nice nice
wholesome reviews.
Wholesome review. That how could I not reread it? We also got one from Lippy. I like that name. Who said, really great podcast to listen to. I started the journey of reading through the New Republic timeline to ultimately get to NJO books, so this was an awesome find. I'm a bit disappointed with some of the casually dropped spoilers. Yeah, we do that. 4 stars. 15 minutes in, we mentioned 3 major characters that happened in the NJO books, which really spoiled the future experience for me. I may need to wait to come back. Okay, fair enough. I think we've covered that.
Yeah, we've talked. It's just so hard to talk about stuff without spoiling it.
Yeah.
I think we talked about that on one of the NJO episodes.
It's like if we're not talking about spoilers, we can't meaningfully discuss it.
Yeah.
So
we're not in a position where we can really do a reaction podcast per se, because like we've read the stuff before. So we could try to do a breakdown thing where it's like, oh, this happened already for all of you, so we can like break down all the appearances. But then that would also take a lot more prep that we don't really have time to do.
It's just like, you can read the books yourselves. Like, we're here to help you make the connections, especially if this is your first time reading it. Like, I understand the frustration with the spoilers, but we're here to help you make the connections, and kind of cover everything. So understand that 4-star review. God damn, that hurts. But seriously,
we appreciate the sentiment. We understand why people would be upset with that.
Yeah. But in modern reviews culture, anything below a 5-star review is a fucking death sentence. But so if you guys want to counteract that individual,
no, let's not shame them.
No,
let's not shame Lippy here. Lippy, we appreciate the good review.
I totally see why we understand
the complaint. Yeah, like I get it. I'd be annoyed as well. We're also we're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
But thank
listen,
you.
If you didn't know fucking Jason Solo gets killed, that's on your ass. But yeah, consider leaving a like on this video. Consider dropping a 5-star or 4-star review if you think if you want to hurt our feelings. And yeah, that's all I got for today. Do you want to lead us on out of here, Sea Dog?
Yeah, leave those reviews. We'll read them on our way out of the podcast. We will read those reviews on the run. That's all I got for the day. We are going to be doing some multiverses with Charlie. That's going to be on twitch.tv/CoreyLoses in a couple minutes. I might try to get some food first because I am very hungry. But other than that, we'll be back next week with Balance Point and a bunch of shaved solos. Good night, everyone.